beginning at the first verse. Gospel according to the writer of John. Chapter 2. Beginning at verse 1. Have it, can you say amen? Amen. Reading from the English Standard Version. On the third day, there was a wedding at Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus also was invited to the wedding with his disciples. The wine ran out. The mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." Jesus said to her, "Woman, what does this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there were 6 stone water jars, there for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. And he said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the master of the feast." So they took it. And when the master of the feast tasted the water now become wine, and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the master of the feast called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and when people have drunk freely, then the poor wine. But you, my brother, kept the good wine until now. This, the first of his signs, Jesus did at Cana in Galilee, and manifested his glory, and his disciples believed in him." You may be seated. Presence of our God. Most people put the good wine out first. Then when y'all get drunk, put the poor wine out, because y'all know no better. But you, my brother, you a different breed. You save the best wine for last. On this 101 year anniversary of White Willie Baptist Church, I want to share from the sermonic thought, keep the party going. Keep the party going. Keep the party going. There's one thing that I know of a certainty. It is that culturally, we know how to throw a party. Matter of fact, I've come to find out that we don't need that much ammunition to throw a party. The average people throw parties at birthdays and retirements and graduations and job promotions and stuff like that. That's the run-of-the-mill party. But our kind, we find a reason to throw a party. You know when Man's first tooth came in, we might as well just go ahead and throw some ribs on the grill, and we might as well just have a party. You know when baby girl took her very first step, we might as well throw some hot dogs and hamburgers on the grill, we might as well throw a party. You know when that bad kid who finally surprised you and got an A on his report card, and you hung that thing on the refrigerator and said we might as well just throw a cook out and we might as well just have a party. Because one thing that I learned is that culturally we know how to throw a party. We don't need an excuse. Half the time we don't even need a reason. For the sophisticated and / ratchet people in the house, we create dual parties where we turn the little kids' party into an adult party. After the Huggies don't ran out, now you pull out the real. You put the kids to bed, turn your music up, start karaoke, and throw a party. Because if there's one thing that we know how to do, we know how to throw a party. So, how to throw a party in order to get us to the second chapter of John. John starts out very heavily theological. He don't waste no time on the genealogy of Jesus. He don't care who Jesus related to. He don't care who his mama is, who's in his lineage, who his kinfolk is. He starts John 1:1. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was God, and the Word was with God, and the Word. No time wasted. Straight, deep theological thought. And John is a heavily theological book. He's not going to waste a whole lot of time trying to entertain you. He's going to get to the deep things of who Jesus is. But in order to prove who Jesus is, you just can't talk about him, but you have to prove and provide evidence for what he actually did. And that gets us into John chapter 2. John only includes 8 miracles in his gospel. 8 miracles of Jesus in his gospel. And within these 8 miracles, Jesus himself will reveal what he deems necessary about himself for his followers to know. He wants them to see, and not only see, but see and believe. But up until this point in our text, Jesus, outside of being in the temple at the age of 12, Jesus has spent 30 years in relative obscurity. This is what we say in the hood, just staying out the way. Right? Jesus ain't in the streets, he's staying out the way in the family business, building tables and chairs, and because he was a carpenter's son, he just build a chair, build a table, build whatever. For 30 years, he lives in relative obscurity. And in our text, at the opening of our text, it tells us that eventually Jesus is invited to a wedding. His mom was invited, Jesus is invited, and his 12 homies is invited. It's a wedding. Jesus and his 12 are going to a party. I'm gonna come down the street in a minute. Jesus is true. You got Andrew and Andrew's brother Peter. Got James and John, sons of Zebedee. Got Bartholomew with them. They had to pick Philip up on the way. Nathaniel was there, Levi. Thomas wasn't really sure if he wanted to go or not. He was kind of doubting if there really was a way to be had. James and Judas, the sons of Alphaeus. And last and certainly not least, Judas Iscariot, holding up the wall, seeing who he could sell out. But nonetheless, they all at the wedding. Now for the super saved and super serious saints in the house today. It is not against Christian policy to have a good time. Y'all left me, I'm a preaching choir. As children of God, just because you got saved, don't mean you gotta stop having a good time. Y'all ready to be real yet? Because somewhere along the way, we've been convinced that once we become saved, we got to be super suffocated and sophisticated. You ever walk into a no, you won't dare catch me. But what is curious, Deacon Watkins, is here in our text, He's not at Bible study. He doesn't have a deacon's meeting with his disciples. But he's at a party where they're drinking wine. Now, I know that offends some of your Christian sensibilities, but I'm in the text. Jesus is at a party where they're drinking wine, and the party is not like you had your wedding out like Lily and then had to repass at the wind charm. This is not that kind of wedding. These weddings, these receptions lasted a whole week long. That means by Tuesday, everybody wasted. And I'm in the text. Jesus at the party. Jesus is observing people having a good time. Oh. Somewhere along the way, we've been convinced that we can't have joy when we become a child of God. I don't know about y'all, but I'll share my own testimony to be transparent. The reason it took me so long to come to Christ because I didn't want to be no Christian because being a Christian was boring. I was in college, living my best life, partying on Friday and Saturday, being ratchet and playing my gospel music on Sunday like it was supposed to save me. Just want to give you my testimony here. Just give you my testimony. I said I'm too young to be one of those suffocated Christians. I got some life to live. Brother Lloyd, I call myself, I'm working on my testimony. I wanted one of those extraordinary testimonies. I wanted one of those extraordinary testimonies. You know, when the saints of God used to stand up and say, God snatched me, slew up all the crack house, and brought me to the I wanted one of those. That's what I was working on. I was working on my testimony. That's what I thought. That's what I called it. But then God sent some boy my way and said, bro, if you die today, where do you think you're going to go? I said, man, but I go to church. I go to church every Sunday. He said, I don't care about that. Never don't care about you going to church. So if you die today, where would you? You've been raised in church all your life, right? Yeah. I've been Sunday school. You die today. Man, I had to confess I was going to hell. So I had to abort my plan for my own testimony and just settle for the testimony that God gave me. That's the way I was trying to work on my own testimony. I would have died out in these streets. But I had to abort the mission. But the fact of the matter is, what I found out is that when I became a Christian, I still had joy. And Sister Shalabra, I would argue that nobody ought to have more joy than the Christian. Because the fact of the matter is, I've seen God do too much. I've seen God make too many ways. I've seen God open too many doors for me to come into the sanctuary Sunday after Sunday and sit down on God like God had never done anything for me. I woke up this morning with my mind stayed on Jesus. I'm walking and talking with my mind stayed on. Ain't no hard with my mind stayed on Jesus. And because of that, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it, and the world can't take it away. And I figured that there will be a section in the house today that will be uppity and bougie and sophisticated. So I learned how to bring my own joy to the church. I can't wait for somebody else to make me happy. I can't wait for the choir to sing me happy. I can't wait for the preacher to preach me happy. I came with my own joy because you will not mess with my joy. Sit down, y'all make me nervous. Sit down. Sit down, y'all make me nervous. I'm my own joy, church. We find Jesus invited to a wedding in Cana of Galilee. Small village, not too far from Nazareth. Massive wedding. Because in these days, weddings were pretty infrequent. So it was the highlight of the year. As a first century Palestinian Jew, life was harsh because they were under Roman oppression. And so all they did was work. And so the wedding was a welcome getaway from the harshness of life. The wedding lasted for days, eating and drinking and singing and dancing at every good party. Got to have scenery, servants, and a savior. Work with me on these S's. Stay with me on the S's. You got to have scenery. You got to have some servants and a savior. A year in the making. The culmination of the engagement or the biblical or the betrothal period. And it was the groom's responsibility to do everything necessary to provide for his wife once they were together. In this year-long process, it was the groom's responsibility to make sure that whatever my boo needs, I'm having it all figured out by the end of this betrothal period. That included, hear me brothers, that included buying or building a home, but usually building onto the Father's house. Put your pen right there, because I'm coming back to that. I'm going to close right on that point. It was the groom's responsibility to make sure that everything that his wife would need, financially, physically, emotionally, would be taken care of in this year-long engagement or betrothal period, which included building a house connected to his father's house. And then you would show up at the end of this year-long process. The groom would show up to the bride's house and proclaim, "Hey, yo! Everything ready. It's time to get this party underway." But not only did the groom have to make sure that his wife was taken care of, but he also was responsible for making sure that everything pertaining to the wedding was taken care of. It was his responsibility to listen to me. It was the groom's responsibility to make sure that everything pertaining to the wedding was taken care of. Come with me to the wedding. Skip the wedding, because we don't go for the wedding, we go for the reception. Skip with. Come with me to the reception. The guests are gathering from across the village. The wedding ceremony is now completed and the reception is getting started. The DJ is on the ones and twos. We witnessed the couple's first dance, and we've seen the daddy and daughter dance and the mother and son dance, and that was all cute, but we want them to get that stuff out the way. Because now the DJ begins to play your cut. Now I know some of y'all sophisticated saints, y'all may not do this, so if you don't want to fly, let it fly. But the DJ on the one and twos knows how to make you backslide. So soon as the couples get all their stuff out the way, he started playing the electric slide. So now ain't your cousin you still sitting in your seat? That's cool, because after the electric slide goes off, then he plays the cha-cha slide. Let the cha-cha go through. You still in your seat? Because after that goes off, then he plays the Cupid shuffle. No, don't back it up in the church. Don't back it up in the church. What I'm trying to say is that this feast was lit. This party was a big deal. And the Bible says that the good wine is supposed to be flowing. The Pinot Grigio, the Rosé, the Chardonnay, Googleys, I don't know. Before y'all leave here saying the capacity, I know how petty y'all can be. I had to Google these, Brother James, I had to use Google. The Chardonnay, the Rosé, the Pinot Grigio, they were flowing. They already had it cold. You know how you show up to some events and they gotta send somebody to get the ice. Nobody made provisions for the ice. Nobody got to stop past the Sunoco on the way. Now you're drinking cold Faygo, warm Faygo, and mouth all stuck together. Everybody's having a good time. But then the wine ran out. That's the tension of the text. Because everything is going according to plan. Everything is on schedule. The wedding planner is thoroughly pleased until the wine runs out. Here's the implication. I told y'all it was the groom's responsibility to make sure that everything was provided for at this wedding. And so, if the wine runs out, it communicates that the groom was not prepared. And that the husband does not have what it takes to provide. Can y'all feel the tension of the text? That if the wine runs out, that everybody in this small village will live with the stigma on this man. You know how we identify people by what's wrong with them? You know that sis with the rolled over shoes. You know that brother that wear that same toupee every week like we don't know he lost his hair back in 95. We identify people by what's wrong with them. And the stigma on the groom would always be, that was the dude who let the wine run out at the wedding. And in this small village, he would have to live with this stigma, this stain, this embarrassment. His reputation would be smeared. But the fact of the matter is, no matter how good the party is, no matter how long the party lasts, no matter how much money you spend on the party, inevitably, the wine will run out. Can I pause parenthetically right there? Because what I found is that you could be in the middle of a good thing. Oh, y'all ain't in here with me. You can be in the middle of a good thing and discover that the wine has run out. And you're only left with bitter water. You know that the wine has run out when you're in a relationship or a situationship. Stay with me. You know that the wine has run out when you're in a relationship or a situationship that once was all good. It was much flowing with love and kisses and adoration. And then one day you turn around and you realize that you can't stand the sight of that culture's face. You can't stand the sight of theirs. You can't stand the smell. And you realize that the wine of the relationship has run out. What used to be filling has now become bitter, disappointing, and unsatisfying. And to the church, the question then becomes, what happened to the wine? See how quiet y'all got? Where has the wine go? When the congregation and the pastor used to work together to accomplish the will of God, now politics have replaced the purpose of the church. We have to ask ourselves, where did the wine go? Sister Terry, when the church used to be the voice for the voiceless in our community. But now the church and the community are speaking two different languages. We have to ask ourselves, where did the wine go? What are we going to do now that the sweetness has run out and we're left with the bland bitterness of water? And Mary, the mother of Jesus, feels the gravity of the problem and she takes it to her son. Mary, by implication in the text, may be helping or assisting in hosting this wedding. And she realizes that once the wine runs out, this is a tragedy. And she goes to Jesus and tells him, hey, son, I don't even bother you, but ain't no more wine. And the response of Jesus is so peculiar that in 2019, well, not 2019, because we don't do that no more, but in about 1990-ish, it would have got you popped in your mouth. Because Jesus starts his response all wrong. Woman, listen to me. I am 34 years old. Grown husband, 3 kids, all that. And I still won't call my mama outside her name mama. Well, Jesus is a different cat. Jesus said, woman, what I got to this ain't my wedding. I ain't throwing this shit in. Y'all ain't asked me to pitch in. You know, because you can't never pay for a wedding like yourself. You got to have your family pitch in. Y'all didn't send nobody to tell me that we had to go fund me for the wedding. What does this have to do with me? Jesus is literally saying, if we get close to the original text, he says, literally, what do you and I have in common? Your concern is not my concern. Because my hour has not yet come. People come here reading contextually, we have to ask the question, what hour? Through the rest of John's gospel, we learn that Jesus is speaking of the hour of his death. That Jesus at this point, I told you he was in relative obscurity. He was staying out the way. But he is becoming singularly focused on his assignment for why he came to wrap himself in human flesh. And Jesus knows that if I do this miracle, I blow my cover and the clock begins to start on my death. I'm trying to stay out the way. But if you ask me to do something about this wine situation, everybody will know that I am not just Mary's baby. I am not just the stepson of Joseph, but I am the son of the living God. And my cover will be blown and the clock will begin to start on my journey towards Calvary. What do you and I have in common? What does this have to do with me? And Mary, just like a black mama, I know Mary was black. She don't even give an ounce of care what Jesus said. Completely ignore that he said me and you ain't got nothing in common. She turned to the servant and walked away. Whatever he said to do, y'all do. I ain't stopping you, Jesus. I heard what you said, but you won't do what I asked you to do. Here, who's your daddy is? She doesn't even address the tone that Jesus speaks to her. She walks away and looks at the servants and says, whatever he says to do, do. Now, how does Mary know that Jesus can even do anything? Mary got a testimony that nobody else has. That I was minding my own business, living my teenage life, and I up and turned around and got pregnant by the Holy Ghost. I ain't know no man. I wasn't being a skeezer in these streets. I was just minding my own business. And I up and got pregnant. And then I had to tell Joseph, I said, now listen, Joe, the baby ain't yours, but it ain't nobody else's around. You don't even know who the dad is. But I'm pregnant. And she literally watched God bring life out of death. And she reasons in herself that if God can bring life out of death in her womb, surely that which she has given birth to can turn water into wine. She has a pulse, just like a good mom. She has a pulse on her son. Jesus says, she's going to take that one on the chin. He ain't got no rebuttal for what his mama just said. So he turns to the son and says, all right, y'all see those 6 water pots? Each holding 20 to 30 gallons of water for purification and not for drinking. Fill them up to the brim. Come on, say it. Fill it up to the brim. And then draw the water out. The good news of our text begins with the fact that the first people to experience the miracle are not the noble and the well-to-do. The first ones to experience the miracle are the servants who are working the party. They aren't even invited to celebrate, but they will be the eyewitnesses that will turn around and say, yo, we was a part of the best wedding ever. These pots, used for purification, where the Jews would constantly wash their hands and they would wash the dishes and they would wash themselves. And Jesus says, use those and fill them up with water. They take it, they fill it up to the brim. Jesus says, take it to the head waiter. Typically the best wine served first, and then you bring out the cheap stuff when everybody's wasted. They take these 6 unintended water pots, fill them up with water, and then draw out what they thought they poured in, only to find out what they drew out was different than what. Because what Jesus has done is he has literally taken the groom's humiliation and turned him into the talk of the town. Listen to me. Let me talk to the intercessors. Because it is not the groom who goes to Jesus and says, we have no wine. It is Mary who sees the plight of the groom and knows that the groom may have too much pride in himself. And so she goes to Jesus on his behalf, and then Jesus fixes his situation. Who talked to Jesus on your behalf? Who came and said a word about your humiliation to Jesus, and then you watch Jesus turn your humiliation into glory? Jesus has taken the groom's humiliation and has turned him into the talk of the town, because nobody saves the best wine for last. Question I asked myself in preparation is, why would Jesus choose this miracle as the miracle to inaugurate his public ministry? Out of all the others, Jesus walked on water, he raised people from the dead, he opened up blinded eyes, he unstopped that bears, he made the people talk. All that, but he starts with turn the water to wine. submit to you that Jesus' first miracle is one of perpetual joy. That in the Old Testament, wine is symbolic of joy. And Jesus is trying to communicate that when you hook up to me, I don't give you cheap wine, but I give you everlasting and perpetual joy. I give you the good stuff all the time. I overflow you in the good stuff and not the good. I don't wait till your good stuff run out and you want. I always give you. You want to know how we get content with temporary joy? Because we celebrate birthdays, right? And as soon as your birthday passes, you back to complaining about how ratchet and messed up your life is. That ain't your testimony? You get a new job. You celebrate the fact that you get a new job. 2 months into the new job, you already looking for another job. Because that wine was just temporary and cheap. You just bought a new house. And you threw a house party and everything. You invited everybody, and you had a good time. You threw some ribs on the grill. But as soon as your furnace breaks, as soon as your water heater breaks, as soon as that roof begins to leak, now you discontent with the house that you got, and you on the market looking for another house because the house was just cheap wine. You graduated, with your diploma. You graduated with your bachelor's, with your master's, with your PhD, but now you still frustrated because Sally Mae still playing on your phone, and you wish you could get the degree back if they would just forget the loan, all because you thought getting the degree was the real joy, but you found out that it was nothing but cheap wine. You got brand new because you got a new boo. You start walking different, you start talking different. Now when I call you, you don't pick up the phone because you say, oh, I was out on that day. Now you humble bragging. But soon as they get on your nerves, now you back on Facebook crying, woe is me. And now your status has changed to in a relationship to now single because the relationship was never meant to give you everlasting joy. It was just cheap wine. Eventually, the cheap wine will wear away. And Jesus is saying that you don't have to settle for the cheap stuff. I'm not asking you to give up your joy, but I'm asking you to replace that which is cheap with that which is unimaginable. Here's what I found out, and I'm almost done. Oh, I'm not shocked because I know what I'm about to say. What I found out is that in every bottle of wine, there is 60% water. Don't ask me how I know that. In every, stay with me because I'm about to shout myself. In every bottle of wine, there is 60% water. Okay, y'all still want to slow down. Say it with me. In every bottle of wine, there is 60% water. That means that you don't ever have wine without having water. And so if you cannot have wine without water, that means that wherever there is water, there's the potential for what? With You can't afford the Dasani. You got tap water. All you can do, you can't afford that bottle. No, water like $2 a bottle. That ain't in my budget. But I got tap water. But my point is that anywhere where there is water, there is the potential for Jesus to turn that water into wine. I heard you, Pastor, but what do I do until Jesus turns my water into wine? Fill up on what you got. I heard you say, like, to the brim. Fill up on what you got until Jesus turns it to what you need. I don't know who that's for. And some of y'all are frustrated, and some of y'all can't stand coming to church because the people on your road is working with wine, and you sitting over there with your Paw Patrol cup of water. You're saying, why does everybody else on my road seem to have wine and I only got water? And so you come to church every Sunday and you can't clap your hands because you're bitter. You can't give God a shout because your cup is half full. You don't even want to sing along with the choir even though the words are on the screen because you're just down and out and you're disappointed with what God is doing in your life. But God told this bald-headed, bearded black man to tell you today that while you are waiting for God to turn your water into wine, you got to fill up on what He's already given you. And when you fill up on what He's already given you, He'll turn it. Because what Jesus does in our text is He takes that which seems to be useless and then He repurposes it for His glory. He takes some unexpected water pots that are used for people to wash their hands, used for people to wash dishes, and He takes it and repurposes it for His glory. Here's some things in your life that look like they're useless, look like there's no purpose for them. You wonder why they are taking up space. But here's my pastoral advice to you today. Go home and fill it up. Paul says, I've learned to be content with whatever state I'm in. Whether I got a lot of money or I'm dead broke. I've learned how to fill up on what God has already given me. And when you fill up on what He's given you, He'll turn it to what you need. That's why you should never come to church empty. You should always bring your cup before the Lord. Bring your cup to the altar and say, God, I'm just dealing with this bitter water that you have given me. But I fill it up. And I trust that in your time, you'll touch my bitter water and you'll make it sweet. Jesus covers the groom's shame. And for the church, we are the bride of Christ. And we are in the midst of a betrothal period. We are engaged to Christ. Now hear me. The church, the ecclesia, the assembling of the saints, the body of baptized believers, we are the bride of Christ. And the reason why you should never come to church feeling down and out is because I told you at the outset that it is the groom's responsibility. I told you to put your hand right there. It is the groom's responsibility to make sure that you are taken care of. That means that whatever is plaguing you right now, your hope and your faith says that my groom is responsible for taking care of me. He's supposed to provide for me. He's supposed to put a roof over my head. He's supposed to help me out of trouble. And the Bible says that there will be another wedding feast. That's why your Bible says that Jesus says that I go to prepare a place for you. I wasn't listening at the beginning. I told you that it was the groom's responsibility to build a house for his bride. That he would never have the bride come where she could not lay her head. And Jesus says that I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you unto myself. That where I am, there you may be also. That's why Jesus says, in my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you that you don't have to fret because you know that God is already making provisions. So while you're waiting with your bitter water, keep the party going. While you're still struggling, keep the party going. While it seems like you have no water and you can keep filling up and keep the party going, because the longer you keep the party going, Jesus will touch your situation and make your bitter water sweet. I'm talking to that person under the sound of my voice today that life has thrown its best punch at you. You ain't even see the punch coming. Yeah. And you're bitter. I need to talk to a real Christian in the house today. Because the reality is that we're not always blessed and happy. We're not always too blessed to be stressed. I know that's what we say to each other on Sunday. You say that on Sunday and then you suffer in silence the rest of the week. But God is calling for authentication in the house. That there will be those who say, I didn't even feel like coming to church today. But here I am. Bitter water and all. And my plea to you today is keep filling up on what he's already given you. While you wait, for him to turn that bitterness back sweet again. Losing a job can make you bitter. Yes, sir. Losing a loved one can make you bitter. Yes, sir. Yes. Losing our relationships can make you bitter. Church people can make you bitter. Yes, sir. Hey, I have to say that. But the reality is that we show up Sunday after Sunday. Not because everything is always sweet, but because we serve a Jesus who is able to make it sweet again. We ain't here to sugarcoat this thing. Life happens to everybody. To the preacher, to the deacon, to the officer, to the choir, to the usher, to the trustee, to the willing worker, to the lay member who sits here under the sun. Every life happens. And life can make you jaded and bitter. but bring that bitter water to Jesus. Let him touch it and make it sweet again. But in the meantime, purpose yourself to show up every Sunday to keep the party going.